Hello, it's your pal Benny. I've become a big fan of Kickstarter, an online platform for creatives to share their ideas, show information about it, in the hopes that people on the internet will support them financially. Backers will be given rewards for their support listed in reward tiers. So I wanted to talk about something that I backed on Kickstarter and discuss the overall experience of the product, the pitch, and the communication from the creators. On May 8th, 2020, Jandusoft successfully funded their new game, Sword of the Necromancer. With a goal of 15,000 euros, they raised over 201,000 euros. That is incredible! So, what did this game look like to gain so much support? Well, this. The gameplay looks like a lot of fun. I don't normally play games like this, but I was blown away by its presentation. There was also an anime opening that was made to be the opening cutscene of the game. I was so on board. The game received so much praise from all over the place. From gaming publications, to other video game developers, and so many excited gamers like me. This game was going to be available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. When I backed this game, I opted for the Nintendo Switch version. The Kickstarter campaign estimated the game to be released in November 2020. But as November started to get closer, we still didn't have an official release date. I was getting a little bit worried and impatient. Then we got an update from the developers that because Cyberpunk 2077 was set to release on the same week in November as Sword of the Necromancer, they decided to delay it until December so that they didn't get completely lost in the hype of Cyberpunk. Then Cyberpunk gets delayed again, this time into the exact same day as our new release date for Sword of the Necromancer. So they push it back again to January 28th, 2021. This isn't horrible, and I don't really blame them. They just didn't want their game to get completely ignored when there was so much buzz behind Cyberpunk. It makes sense. I am just impatient and wanted my game now. But then, it was the day before release day, January 27th, 2021. We get a message from the developers telling us that they're excited for us to play the game, and they sent us the digital download code so that we can get the game pre-downloaded. Except for North American Nintendo Switch codes. They weren't working, or there was a problem with them, and so they were getting that fixed before they could send those to us. Granted, the issue was resolved the following day, but let me tell you how frustrating this was. The problem here isn't that I didn't get the game immediately. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I'll talk about that later. But what bothered me was the lack of communication on how long the problem would persist, what the problem really is, what's the core of it, and what are they doing to fix it. And even worse, when people were asking about it in the comments because we were rightfully frustrated, they were being passive-aggressive in their responses, saying that we just need to be patient. And maybe we did just need to be patient, but that just doesn't look good for you guys. Like I said, it was at the end of the 28th that I ended up getting the game, and I was able to download it with no issues. But here's the thing though. On the first few days of the game's release, Nintendo Switch had it on sale for $13. You know how much I paid? 15 euros. That's $17. Yeah, my financial support is rewarded by me paying more than day one buyers, and them potentially getting to play it before me because of the code issue. Now, I do understand the reason I was paying euros. Because these developers, that's their currency. So they're looking for 15 bucks for their game basically. And so I'm paying that, and you know, the different values or whatever, that's fine. But it still feels like it went unaddressed and like I was punished for trying to support them. I got it a day later than like if a friend of mine wanted the game just as much as me and bought it the first day and didn't support it. They also would have paid less than me. I can't completely blame the developing team and the publishers for this, but it's still really frustrating. But I did get the game and I did play it, so let's talk about that. First, for a little bit of disappointment. I expected that the anime cutscene was showing us a general idea of what the storytelling in the game was gonna look like. But I was wrong. The story was told through text and dialogue over top pictures that related to what was going on in the moment. This was fine. It's simple, and the main focus is the gameplay here. I just had expectations that didn't fit the result. I really enjoyed the gameplay. It was challenging, but the more I played and the more I figured out what kind of loadout I wanted to use, the more familiar I got and the better I got at the game. It's a top-down, rogue-like dungeon crawler game with an emphasis on item management. So you can only have 4 items mapped to your buttons at a time. And after the tutorial level, you also get access to a bag that can hold an additional 4 items. Well, actually, the bag came in a patch after release. When you die, you lose your mapped items, but the items in your bag remain. Oh, but when you die, you'll never lose your sword. That is always permanently mapped to one of the buttons, and you can't move it to your bag either. The game has some really cool enemies, some really neat monsters, and some really cool bosses. Also, so here's where the draw of the game is. Your sword. I mean, it isn't your sword. It's the sword of the Necromancer. You just took it for yourself. The sword you're using can bring fallen monsters back to your life to join you as an ally. Okay, look at these guys. I hate them the most. They're called Imchers, and I can just never dodge their arrows, and I just hate their guts. And I want them all to die! Each dungeon level is procedurally generated except for the boss, where that's predetermined based on what level you're on. Here, I'll show you the level 1 boss, because, you know, it's the first one you'll encounter. I think the design's really cool, but it's not particularly spoilery. The game has 5 main levels, and after you beat the entire game, you can just run through them again and again. The story's pretty cool. You play as Tama, as she tries to gain the power of the Necromancer so she can revive Coco, who had just died. Right after the game's opening level that acts as a tutorial, you discover that with just the sword, you don't have enough power to revive Coco. So you need to go through the dungeon to gain the full power of the Necromancer. The rest of the story is mostly about developing the relationship between Tama and Coco before the dying. The game's story might feel a bit generic, and yeah, maybe so, but the game's story did also have a few twists and turns that I thought were kind of neat. Now remember, the main focus here is the gameplay. Now I've played this game in its entirety 3 different times. There's a multiplayer mode that I haven't played yet, but I'm excited to fool some sucker into playing it with me. Oh, and because I was a backer on Kickstarter, my name got put in the credits. Look, here it is! Anyways, overall, I'd say that Sword of the Necromancer is a pretty solid game. I enjoy it, and I still play it from time to time. Not the best game I've ever played, but I think it's been a good introduction to the roguelike genre for me. Anyways, if you've played Sword of the Necromancer, what did you think? Also, if you haven't played it, did I convince you to try it out, or did I convince you to stay away? I'd love to know what you think. Also, I've backed some other things on Kickstarter, so over time I'll do more of these, but I haven't tried everything out yet, and there's still stuff that I haven't received yet, so be a little patient on that. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hitting the like button makes me feel real good. Also, if you subscribe to this channel, you'll see every time I put out a video like this one and the other things I make, like John Goodman movie reviews and sketches and I guess whatever else I feel like. Alright, well, I guess that's it. Thanks for coming around. Bye!